They gave her nothing but scraps to eat while feasting on plenty themselves. This is how Mariama's story always begins in my mind. She was my niece, but life did not treat her as it should have treated a child. Mariama's mother, my sister, died while bringing her into the world. From that moment, her life was full of trials, each harder than the last. Mariama's story began long before her birth, with the meeting of her parents, Amina and Suleiman. Amina was the pride of her family, a soft-spoken but confident young woman whose faith and intellect shone brightly. She was known for her skill in weaving intricate patterns on colorful fabrics, a talent she inherited from her mother. Suleiman was a farmer, strong and steady, with a quiet charisma. His eyes sparkled with kindness, and his words carried a wisdom beyond his years. Their paths first crossed at a small village market in Katsina. Amina had come to sell her handmade fabrics, while Suleiman was there to purchase supplies for his farm. As Suleiman admired her wares, their eyes met briefly, and Amina quickly looked away, her cheeks flushing under her hijab. But in that fleeting moment, a seed was planted in both their hearts. Suleiman couldn't forget her. The way her hands moved deftly over the fabrics, the calm dignity she exuded, it stayed with him. He asked around and soon learned that Amina was the daughter of a respected family in a neighboring village. With his mother's blessing, Suleiman visited her family to formally express his intentions. In Amina's home, Suleiman spoke respectfully to her father. "I am Suleiman, son of Ademu. I have come to seek your daughter's hand in marriage," he said, his voice steady but humble. Amina's father, a devout man, nodded thoughtfully. "Marriage is not a step to be taken lightly, young man. Have you prayed about this decision?" "I have, sir," Suleiman replied. "And I believe it is Allah's will." Amina's family took time to deliberate, as was customary. During this period, Amina herself prayed earnestly. Though she had only exchanged a few words with Suleiman, she admired his sincerity and the way he carried himself. When her father finally gave his approval, Amina felt a quiet joy settle in her heart. Their nikah, the Islamic marriage ceremony, was simple but beautiful. Held in the village mosque, the imam recited prayers and verses from the Quran, reminding the couple of the sacred bond they were about to form. Amina wore a modest yet elegant dress, adorned with delicate embroidery she had sewn herself. Suleiman, dressed in a crisp white kaftan, could hardly take his eyes off her. The ceremony was attended by close family and friends, who offered their blessings and prayed for the couple's happiness. After the nikah, the women sang traditional songs, their voices filling the air with joy. A feast followed, with dishes of spicy jollof rice, fried plantains, and savory stews shared among the guests. Amina and Suleiman began their life together in a small but cozy home Suleiman had built on the edge of his farmland. Their days were filled with hard work and shared laughter. Amina supported Suleiman in his farming, often joining him in the fields. In the evenings, they would sit together under the stars, talking about their dreams for the future. Their love was strong and rooted in their shared faith. They prayed together 5 times a day, their voices blending in supplication. When they faced challenges, they turned to Allah for guidance, trusting that their union was blessed. Years later, when Amina discovered she was expecting their first child, they were overjoyed. Suleiman often placed a protective hand on her growing belly, whispering prayers for the baby's health. Amina would smile and tell him, "This child will be a blessing to us." But fate had a different plan. Amina's labor was long and difficult, and despite the efforts of the village midwives, she did not survive. Suleiman was devastated. In his arms, he held their newborn daughter, MARIAMA, as tears streamed down his face. "She is the last gift Amina gave me," he said to his family, his voice choked with emotion. "I will honor her by raising this child with all the love I have." The day Amina passed away, a shadow fell over Suleiman's life. In the days that followed her burial, he found himself wandering aimlessly through the fields that had once been his sanctuary. The fertile soil, which had always felt like a source of life and purpose, now seemed barren without Amina's laughter echoing nearby. Her absence was a void he couldn't fill, no matter how much he tried to immerse himself in work or prayer. At night, Suleiman sat alone in the small home they had built together, staring at the empty space where Amina used to sit. Her favorite chair, the woven mat she used for prayers, even her sewing kit, all these small reminders felt like tiny wounds that refused to heal. He would hold baby Mariama in his arms, his tears falling silently as he rocked her to sleep. "Your mother would have loved you so much," he whispered to the infant. "I don't know how to do this without her." Suleiman's grief began to affect his ability to walk. He missed the planting season that year, leaving much of his land fallow. His neighbors, seeing his pain, tried to help. They offered him food and took turns looking after Mariama while he tried to regain his strength. Though he was grateful, Suleiman felt ashamed. He had always been a provider, and now he couldn't even care for his daughter properly. His faith, which had once been his anchor, now felt distant. "Why, Allah? Why take her from me?" he would cry out during sujud, the position of prostration in prayer. Despite his anguish, he never stopped praying. Deep down, he hoped that through his connection to Allah, he might find a way forward. The practicalities of raising an infant became overwhelming. Mariama was a fussy baby, often crying through the nights, leaving Suleiman sleepless and more exhausted each day. He struggled to feed her, sometimes unsure if he was doing it right. There were moments when he felt completely inadequate, doubting his ability to be both father and mother to his child. His family, particularly Amina's mother, began to notice his decline. One day, his mother-in-law visited and sat him down. "Suleiman," she said gently, "grief is heavy, but it is not meant to be carried alone. Let me help you with Mariama. You need time to heal." At first, Suleiman resisted. The thought of parting with his daughter, even temporarily, felt unbearable. But as the weeks passed and his struggles grew, he realized that Mariama needed more than he could give. Reluctantly, he agreed to let her stay with her grandmother. When he handed Mariama over, it felt like giving away a piece of his heart. "Take good care of her," he whispered to the baby, kissing her forehead. "I'll visit often. I promise." Little did he know that this decision would lead to the trials Mariama would later face.